off our Hate Hurts Us All campaign. For those of you watching from home, thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Joanne Profet-Matsuba, and I am the current chair of the Orange County Human Relations Commission. I've served on the commission for 3 years, and I'm so happy that you're here with us and excited that you're going to be a part of our launching of this new campaign. I want to thank the Orange County Board of Supervisors for always being supportive, their unwavering support as we go through this process and as we work to eliminate hate in Orange County. Thank you to all of our long-standing supporters and allies, our new allies that are joining us, and we really applaud your commitment to eliminating hate in our community. I would also like to say that we, as a community and as a group, will continue to work together to show the world that hate is not going to be tolerated in Orange County. I'd like to now pass the mic to an amazing person, I should say, who continues to work tirelessly to help make our community a place that is welcoming and safe for all. And she is the executive director, our executive director of the Orange County Human Relations Commission, Norma Lopez.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for being here this morning. We're so excited to share our campaign, but most importantly, we're so excited to introduce to you the partners and allies who have joined this effort with us. So we're going to get started, and I'm going to hand it over to my amazing colleague Sarah, who is going to lead the first part of this program.
Hi everyone, good morning. I'm actually going to have a panel of folks come up and join me. So if you are of this panel, so if Ernesta, Lisa, Alex, Tana, Priscilla can come up, take seats. I'm just going to go over some numbers talking about the rise of hate in Orange County. So come on up and take seats, and then I'll start there. Thank you. So one of the reasons that we're all here and we're embarking on this Hate Hurts Us All project is because of the numbers, right? Because of this increase in hate in Orange County. And I thought it was important to really focus on a couple of numbers that we can try to retain and use in how we talk about what's happening in Orange County with regard to hate incidents and hate crimes. So this first number is pretty stagnant, and it sort of colors all the other numbers that I'm going to talk about. And it is this 24 to 28 times. It means that all hate incidents and crimes that are reported, this is an underreporting number. So even though we have the numbers to share of that have increased, we know that hate crimes and incidents are underreported by at least 24 to 28 times, right? So think about that as we talk through the numbers of hate incidents and hate crimes that we do know that have been reported in Orange County. So again, hate crimes and incidents potentially occur 24 to 28 times more than what we see. Another significant number that I think is important to share is just how many, right? I think that's one of the first questions that comes up. How many hate incidents and crimes have we experienced, again, that were reported? So last year in 2020, in 2020's report, the total number of hate incidents and crimes in Orange County reported were 375. And as you can see, at least from this 10-year review, it's just continued to go up, these numbers of hate incidents and crimes. Another significant number, it's not on here specifically, but when we break this information down, 114%. It's another number that I think is really important to hold on to. 114% increase in anti-Semitic hate incidents. Right, so that's one community that sometimes we don't often think about or see, but this is where there is a significant increase in hate incidents in our community. 114% increase in anti-Semitic hate incidents. Again, all of these numbers I'm sharing are 2020. This number will seem low, and it's purposeful to kind of get us to think differently. So the 2 to 3% of the Orange County population identify as Black and African American. However, that community is disproportionately targeted in hate crimes and has been for a number of years. Right? They are the #1 most common reason that hate crimes occur in Orange County, the targets. Right? So 2 to 3% of African American and Black folks' population size, but the proportionality of how often that they are the most commonly targeted community for hate crimes. The last number I want to share before we get to the impact beyond the numbers, right, that's why folks are joining us up here, is 1,800%. I think this is a number that's starting to get around, but I wanted to get all those numbers first. So 1,800% is the increase in anti-Asian hate in 2020. So just a skyrocketing number when we think about how hate impacts us all and what hate activity looks like in Orange County. So again, with this rise in hate, that was a little bit about the numbers, and we want to shift to the stories and the impact. So I'm going to let everyone up here, one by one. We'll start with Alex, introduce themselves, the organization that they are representing, to talk a little bit about the impact of underreporting and the impact of hate incidents and hate crimes, and, you know, what these numbers mean with regard to stories, people, faces, communities. So please, Alex, you can introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the stories that you want to share.
Do I stay here or go?
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Alexander Kim. I serve as Government Relations and Community Affairs for Korean Community Services. KCS, as also we're known for, has started in 1977, actually through the Episcopal Diocese of Los Angeles, and we primarily served back then to help out with court-mandated services, probation services for those in DUI, domestic abuse, and other cases, and through a culturally competent way with the Korean American communities. And we gradually expanded to other services such as healthcare services, homeless services as well. We've moved from LA to Orange County in 1992, and most recently we partnered with the Mercy House, so we provide homeless services in the city of Winter Park with the Navigation Center. And of course during the COVID pandemic, we provide also joined with the other nonprofits here with COVID vaccinations. And not just with Koreans, but with mainstream communities as well. So we're working closely with those groups. We're slowly expanding. We're mainly based in the Fullerton, Winter Park, Anaheim areas, and expanding to Irvine too as well, and Garden Grove. So through the impacts that you mentioned about, we've had cases, and didn't make the news, but because we attract certain large Asian American communities using our services, we've had incidences where people just come in and, because of the misconstrued perception about how COVID was caused by China and Asian Americans, so we had people busting into clinics, and we needed to really deal with those issues and provide safety for our patients. And thankfully, through the funding through our federal government agencies, since we're also a federally qualified health center, we were able to apply for certain things to help out with security cameras and things. So thankfully with our government partners, we're able to do that. Also applied for grants with the state of California for the anti-Asian hate funding. I think it's over $148 million we're able to distressing to see these things, but we're also, you know, because we provide mental health services as well, medical assisted treatments, we're able to help those out also that have issues with, you know, mental health, dealing with such as the pandemic causing a lot of distress in their families as well. So, yeah, so that provides a little bit of some anecdotes of what's going on, and it's continuing. You know, we do have, you know, like it doesn't make the news, but you know, just recently we had in the Bay Area, we had a council member of all things in the suburb of Millbrae, city of Millbrae, there in the Bay Area. You know, this whole family walking in the park with a concrete block dropped on him and his family. You know, it's you know, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't matter if you're a politician, a civic leader, or a nonprofit, or a private citizen. You know, Asian Americans and our folks in the Black and brown communities and LGBT, you know, we're all suffering from this hate, and hopefully through the OC Human Relations collaboration. Thank you so much for inviting us.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for joining us. I'm Priscilla Huang. I'm with the Center for Asian Americans in Action. We are a policy advocacy organization based here in Orange County that was actually just started about a year ago. But I was, you know, I thank the Commission for to work with the Board of Supervisors last year, in particular Supervisor Bartlett's office, to draft an anti-Asian hate resolution. And a group of us, when we sat down to start to draft it, we recognize that anti-Asian hate, the roots of anti-Asian hate are the same as anti-Blackness and anti-LGBTQ hate and all of the other communities that are impacted by racism and discrimination. And so we drafted an anti-hate resolution that included and recognized all of these communities. But not just with words. It was really important that there was some action that was attached to the Board of Supervisors resolution. So what eventually passed on March 23rd of last year was a resolution that obviously denounced all of these hate incidences, but also required monthly reporting. It used to be that there was annual reporting of these hate incidences, and now some of this data is available on a monthly basis, so we can better track what's happening. There were a series of community stakeholder meetings that took place, and from that, within, I think it was 60 to 90 days, there was a report that was put together by OC Human Relations to the Board of Supervisors with recommendations on how to make improvements. And so I think we'll probably hear a little bit more about some of the other activities that have come out of that. But you know, we continue to work really closely with the staff here, and again, really excited to see kind of the expansion of this work and the improvements that are being made. And then, you know, even on the city council level, you know, we issued a challenge to all of the Orange County cities to pass anti-hate resolutions last year. We specifically asked them to do it before or by the end of May, because May is Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And 16 cities in Orange County met our challenge. They passed some sort of resolution, and really the purpose behind that too is just to create some affirming messages, right, to the Asian American communities and residents that are living in those municipalities, and you know, really trying to create some space for dialogue. So we continue to look forward to these future systems responses, and looking forward to working with all of you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Lisa Armoni, and I'm proud to represent Jewish Federation of Orange County as a partner in this important community initiative. And I also want to acknowledge my colleague, Kathy Mellon, who's sitting in the second row, also from Jewish Federation, who is my partner in this work. Jewish Federation serves the Jewish community in terms of providing programming, identity building, educational services, supporting our Jewish community organizations, but we're also very involved in advocacy and education focused on combating hate. We work in partnership and in coalition with many organizations locally and across the state and across the country on these initiatives. We're driven to this work by our core Jewish values, which include a commitment to making the world a better place and to building a community that's rooted in equal opportunity and justice and respect for and the celebration of diversity. But we're also driven to this work by the urgency of the moment. Sarah shared with you alarming statistics, data about hate that's targeting marginalized communities. And Jews are consistently the most targeted religious community throughout the country. In 2021, the Anti-Defamation League reported more than 2,700 incidents of assault, harassment, and vandalism nationwide. And as Sarah said, we know that that number is underreported. So certainly the actual number of anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish incidents and crimes are much higher. So I was asked to talk about what anti-Semitism looks and feels like today, and I thought I would share a personal reflection. One of the most visible signs of rising anti-Semitism lies all around us, even if you may not have noticed it as you've driven by the many synagogues around the county, the Jewish Community Center in Irvine where I work, and any other Jewish institution. As a Jewish professional who works in a Jewish institution, I work behind locked double doors. Armed security guards stand at the entrance of my building and monitor the parking lot during all working hours. I regularly participate in mandatory active shooter drills. And I lobby the federal and state government year after year for more funding for security grants because our synagogues and Jewish facilities, and quite frankly, other religious institutions that are not Jewish, need these critical funds to constantly upgrade our security enhancements so that we can keep from harm the members, the congregants who come and pray, the children who attend the preschools and youth groups, the seniors who gather for social programs. That's what it's like to be a Jew in Orange County today. And this scenario plays out in every Jewish community across the country because too many times in the recent past, Jews have been the targets of verbal and physical assaults, shot at, beaten up, spit on. Their institutions the targets of arson, bomb threats, and attacks. Many incidents, thank God, have been thwarted by law enforcement, but too many have resulted in harm and tragedy, the most egregious of which include Pittsburgh, where in 2019, 11 Jews were murdered in a synagogue, Jersey City, where 3 Jews were killed in a kosher supermarket, Poway, where a Jewish woman was killed at a Chabad center, and just 6 months ago in Colleyville, Texas, where 4 Jews were taken hostage in a synagogue, with tragedy averted only because the rabbi who was being held hostage had life-saving security training and ended up saving everybody. And because of these dangers, we know that some Jews are afraid to show their signs and symbols of their Jewish identity in public. We know of children and teens who expressed fear about attending synagogue on Jewish holidays. These are just some of the many manifestations of anti-Semitism today, far too many to discuss in this brief statement. But I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the Irvine City Council and Mayor Farrakhan, as well as the Huntington Beach City Council, for speaking out against anti-Semitism, including the banners that have been flown over the 405 highways with anti-Semitic and racist rhetoric, the flyers that have been distributed with anti-Semitic rhetoric in different neighborhoods throughout Orange County. I want to thank those city council members, including City Council Member Natalie Moser, who's here today, who have stood up and spoken out against anti-Semitic rhetoric. We have to continue to follow these examples and denounce hate wherever we see it. Before I conclude, I'll add that there's another reason why we're compelled to be in community right now. The urgency of this moment, as you hear, impacts all of us, and the dramatic rise in anti-Semitism endangers other communities besides Jews, because anti-Semitism festers at the core core of white supremacy and other hate ideologies. We've seen that in many of the recent shootings that have not targeted the Jewish community, including in Christchurch, New Zealand, El Paso, and Buffalo. And history has shown too many times that where we see anti-Semitism, we also see threats to democracy. To that end, on August 30th, Jewish Federation, in partnership with other community organizations, is holding a one-day summit on anti-Semitism, its interconnectedness to other forms of hate, and its threats to democracy. If you're engaged in anti-hate efforts, I strongly encourage you to join us for this day of learning, strategy building, and community building that will take place on the UCI campus. I've put out some flyers on the table over there, the yellow and white flyers. Please take one. If you're on live stream, you can access our webpage at www.jewishoc.org/driving-out-darkness. It'll take a community to counter hate, and our summit and this initiative are just two of the ways that we must work together to create the hate-free society to which we all aspire. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Hi, I'm Tam Nguyen. I'm the victim advocate with Waymakers. So Waymakers is the nonprofit agency that's been tasked with reaching out and doing any victim work with all victims in Orange County, whether it be homicide victims, sex assault. We have youth shelters. There's many programs within the agency. I happen to work within the crime victim services. So our unit specifically does gang crimes, but we've also been asked to take on hate crimes. And the thing that stands out to me working with a lot of the victims that I work with is it's easier to sometimes for me to deal with an actual victim who has a police report, who's the perpetrator is being prosecuted by the DA's office. What's often hard for me is helping victims of hate incidences. So we have incidences that are referred to us, and it's hard for me to offer any kind of service because the police show up, and unfortunately, because of free speech, not unfortunate, I'm happy for free speech, but you know, from the police perspective, the law enforcement perspective, there's not much they can do because the perpetrators often use tactics that elude prosecution. They're not breaking outright laws. They're doing little trolling things. You know, as Lisa was speaking, it reminded me of some of the cases I've dealt with that's very scary that we don't often think about. It's things that happen at your own home. You know, she was talking about how she has to go through security doors at her work, and I've spoken to some victims who say now they're fearful to live in their own homes because these are their neighbors. So we have situations where neighbors are putting trash out on their lawn, blasting loud music. And I asked the victims, is it a neighborhood dispute? Is there anything you're doing? Is it a parking dispute? And they say no. It's, you know, we've been called racial names, whether it be LGBTQ, Jewish, Asian, Hispanic. I've dealt with everybody, and sometimes being here, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir. You know, in our hate prevention network, we often say that. We have these meetings, and we're often speaking to good folks like yourselves who are showing up and trying to educate yourself on what's going on. But to me, I feel like we need to get out there and reach the potential perpetrators. You know, the young, angry men who feel that they're defending their turf. You know, because oftentimes I speak to the victims and I ask, well, your neighbor, you know, we think of white supremacists as being these crazy skinhead guys. And, you know, there still are some of those out there, but from what I've seen and, you know, when I think about these things, because I work in this field, I often think, you know, these are normal people, these are our neighbors, these are people we work with. And these are prejudices and biases we all have. But to actually step over the line to where you start acting it out, to me is a little scary because we're having regular people who are doing things that they normally probably would think, wait, I'm throwing trash into my neighbor's yard because I feel threatened by his otherness, you know, his Asianness, his Hispanic, whatever. And I feel that I'm losing a part of my culture and my lifestyle. And I try to look at it from their perspective and say, well, you know, that's reasonable to feel that fear. And, you know, that's the main thing that stands out to me, speaking to the victims, is the fear. You know, I'm trying to raise my children here, and now I'm afraid that, you know, I can't sell my house. We know the price of homes in Orange County now. It's not so easy just to relocate and move. So these people they feel stuck, they feel afraid, and they don't want to escalate it. You know, just like a lot of my gang victims, they say, well, if I call the police and I report them, now they're targeting me even more. Now they have real reason to hate me. So it's a frustrating situation for a lot of these folks who are dealing with these incidences. And to me, when I think about it, it's the fearful environment we now live in has got everybody very aggressive and defensive. And everyone thinks that they're protecting their culture, their turf. They're not, you know, in my opinion, crazy people. These are people with real reasonable fears, but their fear is causing them to step over that line, and they're starting to harass people because of their race and these things. And I think, to me, we're talking about a hate prevention network, and to educate is to educate the future perps. You know, I just want to finish with a quote I found. It said, because I was looking for quotes on change, because I think people are afraid of change. And it's from Charles Darwin. He said, "It's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change." And to me, it reminds me of, like, if we're living in a community, I often think about this with my own children, is you want to teach them to be smart, to go out there to survive in the tricky world. But you also want to teach them to be kind. But sometimes you feel like if I teach them to be kind, it makes them a little bit vulnerable, you know? So there's a balance in my mind when I think about that. It's like a garden. You can tend to your seed, but unless you create good soil, good sunlight, good rain, you can plant whatever seed you want, but it's not going to thrive. And if change is inevitable, we have to create an environment where not only for minorities and other groups, but for people who feel threatened, for the perps. You know, we have to create an environment where, you know, I deal with victims after the fact, and I would like to not have to do it. You know, sometimes it's too late. By the time I give them a phone call, the only thing I can really offer them is my apologies. I say, I'm sorry this happened to you, but I wish I could say, you know, I guarantee we can prevent this from happening before you even become a victim. It'd be nice to look at children and say, this is not going to happen to you, because we live in a community where there's no fear. And, you know, like a garden, let's tend to the soil and the environment, and whatever seeds are planted, that's not up to us. You know, I've been reading about the the great replacement theory, of how there's a lot of people out there who feel that their culture is being threatened by immigration and voting, and that there's special groups like Jews that are trying to change it. It's a conspiracy theory. And to me, I think we're all going to be replaced. You know, we're all going to die. But the environment we create for our children, our grandchildren, we can't control that. You know, they're going to make the choices they make, but we can try to at least set the tone by saying, you know, to each other, you know, the hate has to stop for my kids, because I won't be here to see it. You know, but if I'm creating an environment, and it's crazy to me that we're creating an environment where we're kind of, it's tribal again. And when I see that happening between neighbors, it's a little concerning, because it's just a little bit of the tip of the iceberg.
Thank you again for sharing the impact that hate incidents, hate activity, hate crimes has had in your communities, in the organizations that you're serving or started during particularly the pandemic in 2020. Just want to appreciate all of what you shared. I think I take something for myself, but also for us, right? This is urgent work, right? This is work that might not be in the news. Right? This is work that requires a lot of different tactics: education, advocacy, individual relationships, institutions, creating the environment, the soil, right? Not just planting the seeds, but thinking about everything around. So we wanted to at least share some of in coming together with community-based organizations, 211OC, the County of Orange. We wanted to really focus on a couple of creating some institutional placeholders, right, for our current and future so that underreporting doesn't happen as much, so we're actually getting more accurate reporting numbers. People feel like they can report in the language that they speak, the language that's comfortable for them. They can report in ways to people who know about and understand maybe cultural nuances, right? Same with receiving support services in ways that are culturally appropriate, that are affirming and are really listening, even if it's listening and saying, I'm sorry this happened to you, let's talk about what you might need, even if it's not with a police report. Right? So that we're focusing on underreporting, access, and also support services for victims. I think we're going to hear a little bit more about that. I want to thank everyone up here again, talking about the impact.
Thank you, Sarah. So we're going to get the second part of our program started with Activate, and I'd like to ask the rep from 211OC, the LGBTQ Center, Stephanie, Access California, Brenda, and then OCHR, the council.
Good morning, everyone.
So, we had an opportunity to hear about different communities that have been and impacted, and we do recognize that we don't have all the communities here present that are impacted by AIDS. But this is the purpose behind this launch, this project, is really hoping that we're able to reach those hard-to-reach communities, that they understand that there's a place to report, and that there's services and support, that they're not alone. And with our expansion work, we've had a very unique opportunity to expand our network in terms of the partners that we're working with in this work, and really trying to push the anti-hate agenda forward. And you saw the first part, and this is the second part of that. And for this part, we wanted to really ask folks about why was it, what motivated them to say yes to my crazy proposition, to partner with us and really join this journey. So I wanted to, maybe we can start with Sasha. If you can share from Access California's perspective, why did Access California feel like this was important work to be a part of?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today and express our support for the OC Human Relations Haters to Soul campaign. My name is Sejan. I'm here today representing Access California Services. We are a nonprofit, culturally and linguistically sensitive, community-based organization in Anaheim, delivering wraparound health and human services to underserved communities with the focus on the Arab American and Muslim American population. Access Cal is a proud partner of OC Human Relations and is committed to ensuring that this campaign is successful in underserved communities. Access Cal focuses on serving the Arab American and Muslim American communities, who also represent vulnerable immigrant and refugee communities. It's important within our mission to empower these communities while creating a safe and inclusive environment free of hate. An essential part of this is to also provide an inclusive and approachable space to make sure our community feels safe to share their experiences. Sadly, similar to other ethnic minorities, Muslims and Arabs have been subjected to hate crimes and continue to be subjected to ethnic and religious profiling. The aftermath of 9/11 continues to keep our community members scared and in many cases isolated. While they've experienced incidents of hate, they're scared to report or don't know how to report, and thus they suffer in silence. And also, as a result, there's underreported data. Access Cal is a part of this important campaign to support victims of hate crimes and raise awareness on the importance of when, why, and how to report. We're here to help ensure this information is accessible to our community members and that we approach it in a way that is both culturally and linguistically sensitive. By being a part of this campaign, we're breaking down barriers to reporting by helping ensure community members have access to critical information as well as the tools and resources needed to respond to these actions. We hope that through our participation and support of this campaign, we can build a safe platform for community members to comfortably come forward and report incidents and share their narratives. By having such data, we can implement effective and strategic preventative interventions that drive systemic change that can break down hate, intolerance, and bigotry. We hope that the Hate Hurts Us All campaign is a stepping stone towards building safer and healthier communities. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Amy Rombulo, Director of Community Programs at 211 Orange County. 211 OC felt that this was an important initiative to be a part of for 3 different reasons. One, to ensure that we're properly identifying hate crimes throughout our community. We know that far too often hate crimes go unreported, and we want to be a part of that solution. The second reason is to facilitate easier access for reporting hate crimes for Orange County residents. And I'll talk a little bit more about how we do that in a moment. And the third reason, to improve the coordination of care for folks who are experiencing hate crimes. So in previous models, we know that hate crimes get reported and far too often folks fall through the cracks and don't get connected successfully over to direct services to help with supporting them through the process. And we want to ensure that that doesn't happen anymore. So we do that by providing our 24/7 helpline. Anybody in Orange County can call and get connected to our live community resource navigators who can help them identify that it's a hate crime that they've experienced and actually help them fill out the report over the phone. They'll also, of course, have the option to self-fill out the report, and we'll, of course, empower them to be able to do that themselves as well. We'll also provide the option for care coordination, so if they feel like they want additional support in getting connected over to a direct service provider, we will be able to do that, warm handoffs, stay on the phone with them, and transfer their case and information directly over to a direct service partner, one of these fabulous partners is part of the panel. We also have established better access to report hate crimes, so we have 3 different methods of reporting. They can call us 24/7 at 211. They can text their zip code to 898-211, and they can email OCHateCrime@211oc.org to get additional support through our community resource navigators. And we just wanted to thank the OC Community Relations Commission and the Board of Supervisors, as well as all these strong partners in stopping hate in Orange County.
Hi everybody, good morning. My name is Katrina Salgado. I'm with Imprenta. And I'm sure you all know, if you've read any kind of literature, that there is no greater and more powerful idea when that idea's time has come. And I really believe that hate hurts us all is an idea whose time has come, and it's come hopefully sooner than later. And I'm just grateful that we are here to be a part of it. Imprenta was established a long time ago. I was maybe 15. I'm not kidding. But we built it because my friends and I, three of us basically, two guys and me, always found ourselves in a room where we were the only something, only woman in spite of my 20 years in healthcare, I was the only woman in a room full of executives who were much older than I was, all men, and we're planning a women's center and said, Katrina can take notes. Like, okay, but you're talking about, you know, breast checks, mammograms. Yeah, you can choose the color of the robe, but go out there and say what you want you to say. Or my male colleagues who would go into a room and they'd be the only Asian, the only Latino, and say, okay, you can speak for all the Asians, because what the hell, you look like an Asian, you know? So Imprenta was built, and this was during my time working double time in 2 hospitals. We started because we felt we can't be the only people who feel this way. We can't be the only people in the room who look like us. I mean, you go out and you see everybody looks like you. You go to McDonald's, you know, go to the gas station. You don't even have to go to a Filipino restaurant, you know? So we thought about building Imprenta to empower communities of color, to give them a voice, to speak with them, to them, for them, in the ways that they want to be communicated with. Not to, but with. And also to understand that diversity empowers people. That diversity brings us together even if we're different, and to respect them in those ways. So when we got the opportunity to work with the OCHR group, all of you guys, we felt this is, you know, 20 years in the making. This is an idea whose time has come, although we started 20 years ago. We're finally being heard. We went through a lot of focus groups, meetings on Zoom, on email, finding the best ways to communicate this message. We got a lot of questions about, why are you even using hate? Why are you using hurt? Because, you know why? We had about 33 taglines that we played around with, ranging from love for all, or all we need is love, or be kind. But it didn't get to the point of why we need to fight, which is another word that we heard, was polarizing. Because hurtful things become hateful things. And all of us are affected by that. When I started working, we were working in a big circle. We had a Jewish American designer, we had a guy from Cambodia who was working on some logos, we had a lady from Spain, and we had me. We were all designers when we started out. Kim, who was our receptionist, she was Caucasian, says, okay guys, I'm gonna order food, but only Katrina can order for you guys. And we were like, why? And she said, because she's the only one I understand. And I'm going, okay. And I said, Kim, you know, I'm Asian, right? She goes, yeah, you're the right Asian. And I'm like, okay, ouch. And I thought, okay, let's move on with that job to another job. I actually applied at, of all places, Martin Luther King Hospital. And there's South LA, because I felt, oh, this is somewhere I really want to be. I worked at California Hospital for a long time, and then I felt, okay, Martin Luther King is coming up, it's going to be the new king. So I go in there, talk to their head administration, Katrina Salgado, perfect. You have the pedigree, you have the experience, you know the people in LA, you know MRT, all these guys. However, they asked me, why don't you speak Spanish? And I said, well, to be honest, my mom was a Spanish professor in the Philippines, and all she did was yell at us in Spanish. So I never learned it, because, you know, passive aggressive, whatever. But I said, I'm willing to learn. If I really have to, I'll learn and I'll speak it. I understand it, I can read it, but I just can't bring myself to respond. And no fault of Hispanic community, Latin, nothing. It's just me. But what the administrator had said was, you know what, Katrina, it's too bad that you can't get this position. because you're not Hispanic, but you do have the right last name. So I didn't get the job. I didn't take the job. And instead, when my good friend Ron Wong, who we started business with, he said, "Why are you still out in the community, working in all these godforsaken places who don't see you? Just come home to Imprenta." And by the way, all this time I had been working in Imprenta double time. Working before work, working after work, working in between work, working whatever. And you know when I went and I said, okay, fine, I'm done. I'll just go and work in Imprenta and be done. I finally realized when you look up, you see everybody. When you work in a place where you're so scared to lose your job, or to not have that health insurance, or to not get that promotion, you're constantly looking down and you don't see anything but your own fear. And that same year, when I decided I'm just going to focus on Imprenta and focus on the things that made us start in the first place, I received a Lifetime Achievement Award from my college, the medical college in the Philippines. I was able to complete 5 medical missions to Ethiopia and go to school, and received top PR Person of the Year in America. And that's all in 1 year. Imagine what we can do together with one website, with the social media connections, with all of these through Hurts Us All, and all of these faces and all of these stories coming together. If I was able to do that with one person, just me looking up, what about all of us looking here? There's so much we can do together. And that's why this website, this group, the social media components, all of these things work together. They're integrated. If you go to, I don't want to plug it, but I got it. If you go to www.hatehurtsasall.org, you're going to see a variety of languages there. You're going to see an invitation to share your story. Because what I learned is, when you share your story, the way you learned I was not white Asian, or the wrong Latino, you realize that there are other people like you. And together, we can fight hate wherever it is. It doesn't just have to be OC. It can be anywhere in the world. It can be with your neighbors. It can be far away. It can be close by. It can be anywhere. And that's why I think it's a great opportunity for all of us to join together and realize that hate does hurt us all, and we need to work together, and we're not alone. Thanks.
Hi, everybody. Apologies, I do have to keep my mask on just because I'm getting over a little cough, but before I get started, I do want to acknowledge and say thank you to OCHR for hosting this event. Thank you to our partners, our CBOs, community-based partner organizations, who are also participating on this panel. It's a pleasure to be with you all and to hear your stories and perspectives. And good morning, everybody. Thank you all for joining us here today as well. My name is Stephanie Camacho Van Dyke. I'm the Director of Advocacy and Education at the LGBTQ Center OC. My pronouns are she, her, ella. If you're unfamiliar about the center, we are located in Santana, which isn't too far from Irvine, about 20 minutes or so away from here. We provide a variety of different services to uplift and support the LGBTQ community here in Orange County. One of the things that we provide is our youth and young adult programs. So we offer social support, mental health, education, and also youth leadership groups and activities to uplift and empower our LGBTQ young people and young adults. We also do have a robust mental health program where we have about 25 mental health counselors that are available to provide mental health services to individuals, couples, and families. We do, through this program, offer free mental health to LGBTQ youth, and from what I've seen in the past 2-3 years is that we've seen an increase of need to support the mental health needs of our community members. We also do different community activities and events. This past Saturday, we concluded our Pulse Remembrance event, which was, I would say, a very somber event to remember and commemorate those that we lost from Pulse 6 years ago. In light of the recent shootings happening in Uvalde, Buffalo, even here in Orange County, Laguna Hills, you know, it was very, there was a lot to process and a lot to take in from that event, especially knowing that this was an attack on 49 LGBTQ people and an attack on one is an attack on all, right? And so we do different community activities and events. We also do offer trans services to support transgender, gender nonconforming, non-binary, and gender questioning folks in Orange County. We also do provide immigration services to uplift undocumented and migrant youth people and families in Orange County as well. And then we also do advocacy and education in the community too to support LGBTQ youth and young people in schools and providing LGBTQ events to uplift and raise awareness for LGBTQ issues in schools, as well as working with teachers and faculty alongside their students to create and foster an inclusive environment that really supports LGBTQ young people in their school. So Norma, you asked, you know, why is the center involved with this work in streamlining and creating a process for folks to be able to report hate crimes and incidences and also bullying when it happens and occurs. And one thing is to increase accessibility to make it easier for our community members to report when it happens. Oftentimes we see that, and I've heard from stories from our own community members and people who use the center, is that they don't feel safe enough to go to the police. And so when Norma propositioned this opportunity to get involved with this, with other CPO organizations and also OCHR, I immediately jumped on it because that's something that we need. Something that we need to fulfill and make accessible to folks who want to come forward and report and make it known. 2021, just last year, it was the most violent year on record for trans individuals, trans and non-binary individuals across the country. 57 of those people were murdered. And that shouldn't happen at all. And each year, we consistently see that trans people are being murdered and it's increasing year by year. The majority of those who are Black and also Latinx too. And so we want to make the process more accessible to community members to report hate, especially those who are most marginalized within our community, such as Black, Indigenous, people of color, as well as our trans and non-binary community members as well. We need to do our part here in Orange County to support LGBTQ people, period. Oftentimes we see that these reports go, unreported or they're misreported. So oftentimes trans people are misgendered or dead named, and it can make the experience really uncomfortable, right? We've seen in the news, for example, just a significant increase of anti-trans legislation that impacts, most importantly, our trans youth in schools. We have trans youth who participate at the center. I can give a quick story of one youth that used to work with us before she aged out and moved on. But in the beginning, we had one youth who was beginning to transition. She was starting to explore her gender expression. And every day that she would come to the center, she'd be wearing very masculine clothes. So typical, jeans, long t-shirts, so on and so forth. And I noticed in addition to her school backpack that she would bring another backpack full of clothes that she would want to change into to appear and dress more femininely and participate in group as she wanted to be seen and referred to, by her preferred name and whatnot. And so she would take time, at least an hour before group started, to just go ahead and change, put makeup on, make herself feel nice, and just be in a space where she could be herself. And at the end of group, every week, she would go back to that bathroom and change back into those masculine clothes and go home, right? Because she didn't feel safe at home to be and to express who she was. And her parents, from what she had experienced, were not accepting whatsoever. And so just imagining that environment of being, at risk of being kicked out or experience rejection or just hatred from your own parents, that's a lot to take in, a lot to process from the people that you look up to and rely on the most, and just to be in that kind of environment is just so toxic. And so being part of this coalition, I think it'll give us the opportunity to record those stories, to be there to support, and to really be able to bolster LGBTQ student support services as well as support services for our community members in collaboration with all these wonderful organizations here. I think each of us brings such a unique perspective into this work, and in a way it really is intersectional and amazing to see the potential that can come out of this. And so in light of it being Pride Month and also the launch of this collaborative, I am so excited to be part of this and just to see where it goes and to commit to ending hate here in Orange County as it happens. Like I mentioned earlier, hate doesn't have a place here in Orange County at all. But it really does take a community to come together to put their foot down and say, no, this is not happening here at all. If you'd like to get involved, if you'd like to support in any way, feel free. I'm more of a, to be honest, one-on-one person. It's a little intimidating to be up here, but I hope I wasn't rambling off too much. But if you'd like to talk, if you're interested in getting involved, we're always in need of volunteers, and we'd love to have you join us in support. So thank you so much, and I'll pass it over to Don.
Thank you, Stephanie. Good morning, friends and partners. My name is Don Hahn, Director of Operations with OC Human Relations. I'm not a great speaker, but I'll do my best. We have so many great speakers in front of me or ahead of me. So, Orange County Human Relations believe that all people have the right to live free from discrimination and violence. So this project is a dream for us. In the last 30 years, or at least the 21 years I've been with the agency, being part of hate crime prevention's staff or response, this is a dream for us. It's a dream for us to see that at the county level, we get the support. At the community level, we also get the support, and individual level. So the work that you see here didn't happen, we didn't bring people together just yesterday and say, hey, we showed up at Fairmont. This work happened for over decades. And it was necessary work that it needs to happen in Orange County. We're one of the very advanced county in terms of responding to hate crimes and hate incidents in California. Many years ago, I was part of CAIBO, our organizations. When we were talking to the Attorney General's office at the state in Sacramento, one of the things they asked about us is like, what is different about Orange County? How did you get all those data? How did you get all those collaboration? To us, it's essential in our relationship. We build relationship in that way so we can continue to work together, right? So, before my role as a staff support and monitor, and I say that jokingly because when we say monitor, we have such a passionate staff that when I say monitor, we're not talking about like making sure people don't continue to communicate via email, Teams, or even phone call on the weekend if it's not necessary, right? Because we have our staff that normally laugh because I have to tell them, hey, today is Saturday, we can take a little break if there's no incidents. But these folks don't know when to stop. And they don't know when to stop, it's 8 p.m. or midnight, and they send you a message. But it was necessary for us to do that in the sense of we got to care for ourselves. We have an amazing board and executive director that making sure that we take care of ourselves. And I want to thank them for that. I do want to speak about hate crime. Before my role, when I was the person who supported the commission staff, and this is another entity that we're very proud of. It's like we're a private entity that actually have a partnership with a public entity, with the Orange County Human Relations Commission, with the support of the supervisor, to provide the services. So with that being said, when we talk about how do we implement the work, always see the way we work in 2080. 20% of our time we spend responding to hate crimes, hate incidents. The other 80% we spend is preventing. So, unfortunately, in the last 5 years in Orange County, we have seen hate to the highest point in Orange County, the murder of Blake Bernstein. That was my first call in 2018. And a commissioner called me and said, Don, there's a young man that's been murdered because of hate. And that was the hardest thing for me. She said, I have to reach out to provide support. The county has to be there to provide support, right? Just like any other person or victim that has been impacted by hate crime or hate incident, the question that people always ask is, why me? What did I do wrong? My regular answer usually said, I don't know why you did not do anything wrong. And we're here to support you with that. Right? So that's the response work. And sometimes we have crises that happen in our community. Crises such as when I first came into here, it happened here, but it happened somewhere else that impacted us as well. Like this house shooting. The thing that happened in Buffalo, the most recent. My first experience of coming to this work was right after 9/11. And that was a huge impact here in Orange County, especially to the Middle Eastern or perceived to be community here, Muslim community here in Orange County. One of the things that we did back then was teaching people how to facilitate living room dialogue. The reason why we do that was we want people to invite their neighbor into their living room and have conversation. That's 30 years ago, right? Almost 20-something years ago. Huntington Beach Human Relations Committee continue that work today via Zoom, having similar living room dialogue. Those are the type of work that it didn't start and end, it continues. And that's something that's made us very, very unique here in Orange County. For us, as Tom said, how do we create an environment for a future generation? I came into this work when my kid was still in elementary school. And I thought about them quite a bit when I was doing this work. I have so many of you that your children or your grandchildren are in that place now, like elementary school, high school, junior high. Our Bridges program, or Restorative Justice program, are those are the work that we do to support the LGBTQ Center, to support safe and inclusive school learning environment. So we do human relations work on school campuses to teach young people, say, hey, it's okay to celebrate our differences. But if we do have conflict in this diverse community, how do we work it out without violence? How do we work it out through communication, right? So in 2020 is a very pivotal moment for us. For all these years, our colleague and I, we've been out there talking about diversity training, equity, inclusion. And sometimes, to be quite honest, people didn't even know or pay attention to what we're trying to say. After the murder of George Floyd, our office was flooded, literally, request, and we as team leaders sat and said, what are we going to do with all these requests? So we dig deep into our pockets, in terms of our curriculum, in terms of our staff, in terms of our expertise. Right in the beginning of 2021, we launched the restructures. This is a year-long cohort that actually trained leaders here in Orange County to talk about doing diversity, equity, and inclusion work. Talking about even writing their own policy in their own agency. What's it mean to have safe and inclusive learning and working environment? What's it mean to have racial equity in your organization? So we have folks like United Way, folks that are leader of other nonprofits, that in this cohort, that are trying to advance the work in Orange County. We're really proud of that. the last thing I do want to say is that it takes all of us, you know, like Priscilla said, it takes a long journey of getting data, getting resolution passed, getting all this communication to happen, to us to continue to build the awareness and the work that is necessary for us to be together by intention. Intentionally, we are trying to do that. And the last thing I really want to do is I do have a page. Today's the launch, right? The end of the month, next month, in July 15th, South Pole, because we have to confirm it again, we're going to do a community town hall at Soka University. I hope all of you will join us and invite more people, because we have a huge space there. That we want to hold a town hall to talk about continuing this work and how can we continue to support each other moving forward. So I want to thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you, partners, for sharing your thoughts and sentiments to this project. We do have one additional person who unfortunately couldn't be here in person, but she did record herself for us to share that video, and that is Supervisor Bartlett. We do want to recognize and acknowledge that her stewardship with this resolution and her advocacy alongside with Supervisor Doe was really critical for our commission, for the Human Relations Commission, to be able to put a proposal that got approved in December. So we are so grateful that she set some time apart to be able to record this video and sharing a little bit about why this was important for the county and what message she has for the broader community.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lisa Bartlett, supervisor for the fabulous Fifth District, and it is my pleasure to join you today, albeit virtually, for the launch of the Human Relations Commission's Anti-Hate Expansion Project. The event on May 15th at the Geneva Presbyterian Church in River Woods, which led to the tragic and untimely death of Dr. John Chang and serious injury to 5 others, brought the sobering reality of hate to our doorstep. What was initially thought to be a tragic act of violence has now been identified for what it truly was, an act motivated by hate. It saddens me that our nation continues to be challenged by racism and targeted anger, but when it happens in our own backyard, we cannot sit idly by. We must take action. Hate and discrimination of any kind against any race have no place here in Orange County. Hate activity has been steadily on the rise nationally and locally. In Orange County, we've seen an overall increase of 42% in hate crimes since 2014, and according to the Orange County 2020 Hate Crimes Report, there has been an increase of 1,800% in incidents motivated by anti-Asian hate. I continue to work closely with our Human Relations Commission on their tireless efforts to unite people of all colors and creeds across our county. In March of last year, I introduced a resolution condemning hate that was supported by my board colleagues. More recently, I was pleased to gain the board's support for my proposal to allocate $1 million to initiate a campaign to stand up against hate and help bring an end to these fear-based incidents. This funding will help support the Human Relations Commission's goal of improving accessibility to reporting platforms and resources that meet the language, cultural, and diversity needs. No person should ever be denied the opportunity to have their voice heard, and language should never be a barrier to reporting a hate crime or an incident. What happened at the Geneva Presbyterian Church and to the Taiwanese community was heartbreaking, and I offer my condolences to all those who were impacted by this tragic hate crime. But more importantly, I offer my support. I am committed to eliminating the causes of discrimination, intolerance, and will support anyone who has been subject to a hate crime. Working with the Commission, our law enforcement partners, and the community, we can create safe spaces for healing and lead to conversations on reimagining
reimagining the way that we're going to address hate in our community. We've been doing this work for a very long time, and this is a turning point. This is where as Katrina said, this is where we get our hands dirty, and this is where we begin to shift and make a change. This contract, we've been hard at work since early January and putting all the pieces together, working with 211 on our new reporting websites, the new reporting forms, the ways to report, community-based organization partners, establishing comprehensive services for folks who are victimized. No matter if it's a hate incident or a hate crime, they will get services, they will get help. And the most exciting part is our education and awareness campaign that Imprenta has helped us put together, which now we're going to share more about how is it that you can participate, how is it that your communities can get engaged in spreading the word and be part of the solution. And to help us with that, we have Leonel Talavera, who's going to walk us through it.
Thank you all for coming today. So I wanted to be able to share the ways you guys all can be able to participate with us with this campaign. So there's various, we're going to also try to put up the website to have it be a little bit more interactive in that, but at OCD Human Relations, we do have workshops and trainings that we can do with you. Don touched on a little bit of that, dialogue circles and things of that nature. So you'll be able to find a lot of that information on the website as well too. But not just with those workshops and presentations that you can request from us, but also from our community partners as well too. So they have a wealth of knowledge and experience doing a lot of this work. So we are not doing this alone, and we know that it's going to take all of us to be able to do some of this work. So this is the website that you'll be able to kind of log on to some of those resources. You'll have them in multi-languages. Again, really thanks to Imprenta for helping us put all this together. So again, a lot of wealth of information on this, resources, information, links to a lot of the community-based organizations that are partnering with us on this project. So I'll invite you all to be able to join us and take a quick glance at that. But also by joining the hate crime prevention network as well too is a good way to participate. So if your organization, if you know someone that wants to join that as well too, so we had some individuals that are part of that network as well too. So they've been doing some great work out there. So a lot of folks that are doing this and a lot of collaboration. So we got to think about this in ways that we got to collaborate amongst one another. Also, having assets available. So you'll see on this website as well too, there will be a toolkit that will be able to direct you to some of the materials and flyers that you'll be able to edit to be able to share with your local communities and things like that. Also,
we will fix that.
That'll be fixed. But if you go into the Fight Hate link and you go down towards the middle of the page, and ways to also activate locally. So there's good ways that you'll be able to share some ideas on there, but also connect with us at OC Human Relations, especially with myself, doing the outreach and engagement piece of it. Help you guys do some of these kind of like block parties and things like that. Book groups, finding ways locally in your own communities with your own neighbors and friends and other colleagues, maybe even at the workplace as well too. Ways that you can share this message and get people really excited. And I think that's one of the biggest components of today is to build some excitement around this, to really have hate-free Orange County. Coming together, working together on this, and not being an isolated incident or situation that we're seeing here in our county. Ways to be able to connect as well too. Also be able to share your story. So Katrina also shared a little bit of that when she spoke. So you'll be able to click on this link and be able to submit information if you have a personalized story that you want to share, because we all know that's where we want to make sure that everyone feels heard and seen when it comes to hate in Orange County. Sometimes it does feel a little isolated in that way. So you'll be able to share pictures, your story. We'll be able to put that out there, and you'll give us permission, or the individual will give us permission to be able to share that information with the broader community. Again, just to bring some awareness to what's going on here in Orange County. And then ways to also kind of connect with us would be through our Facebook page, our Instagram account, and our Twitter as well too. So you'll see a lot of that information on there to be able to connect with us. Also conferences and events, we'll get into some of that. There was some plugs for some of the events that you'll find on the table. Anti-Semitism Today, there's an event that's going to be happening on June 23rd, and then the summit or the conference that Lisa was plugging in, which will happen on August 30th. Is that correct? At UCI. I'm trying to keep all this right here. And also with Juneteenth happening this coming weekend on the 18th and 19th, the OC Heritage Council is hosting something, and then I know there's also another event happening at the Irvine Great Park as well too. So Irvine will be hosting something as well too. But please share that information with us. We'll also have ways to communicate a lot of those events that are happening here locally in our county. So again, just promote it. We want to have a presence as well. So you'll see again the logo, the tagline out there, and just the launch to be able to contact us, to be able to share this information with our network, with your networks. We all got to work together to make this happen. Again, to have a hate-free Orange County. And I think that's it.
Thank you so much, Jonel. As you can see, the website, there's still elements that we're developing. We're hoping that at some point we will be able to have an updated calendar of activities so folks can connect and see what's happening in the county. But as Jonel mentioned, we are open now to go out and do presentations, workshops in your spaces. You can contact us, put in a request. If you want to utilize any of the assets, we have logos, we have a PowerPoint presentation, we've got flyers that have all of the logos and the taglines. They're free to use. This is not OC Human Relations Commission's campaign, OC Human Relations, this is Orange County's campaign and project. And that was the vision behind this. It was that this is a message that we all can rally up against and really push out. So right after this, I know that Invenda's going to help us get those toolkit items up. So everybody can access the different assets and collateral, the amazing things that they put together. So with that, I want to ask our other fabulous commissioner, Vice Chair Jennifer Wang, to help us with closing today's event. If you come up. Okay, thank you.
Good morning, everybody. First and foremost, you know what? I was actually very inspired by Supervisor Bartlett's video because she mentioned something that's very personal to me. I see lots of friends here, so I think some of you guys are aware. Yes, I'm Asian American, but I also identify as Taiwanese American. I also identify as Chinese American. And what happened most recently, that was really close to home for me. Because not only for my identity, but I would be really remiss if I could not also mention I also serve with the Asian American Senior Citizen Service Center. And as you know, many of the victims there were elderly. And I was so inspired by both panels. Because many of them I work very closely with, and actually some of them I haven't had a chance to work with them. I look forward to working with them as a commissioner, but also as a community leader. The stories that you guys share, the ideas that you guys share, what you guys stand behind, that's solidarity. And that's what we need now. Our most vulnerable, they need to be heard, and you guys are the voices. I also have some housekeeping that they also asked me to do. First off, we have to thank Chief Michael Kent. He's also a fellow commissioner. He kindly made this space available for everybody. It really takes a team to make this happen. And lastly, I want to thank every single one of you here. And I want to thank everybody virtually as well for being here. Seeing you here means that you're committed. Seeing means that you're curious. You want to learn, and we also want to teach, because there's a lot to, from my perspective, to unlearn about what to do. Right now, we're here to fight. I cannot emphasize enough that as well, that we have to fight against hate, because hate does hurt us all. And I hope that we can connect afterwards, and we want to invite you to the spaces so that we can have dialogue. Please invite our staff to your organizations. Please invite them to the safe space in which they can provide resources. And we also ask, please take the survey. There's a QR code around the room. We'd love to hear from you. And if you need a paper version, our staff also has a paper version as well. And we hope to see and hear you in the future events. Please work in solidarity. Please work with us. And I wish you guys a good week. Thank you.
So as you said, there's surveys, we would love your feedback, there's some QR codes, we do have paper here, and my staff did mention that I forgot to show the slide that's most important, which is how to report hate activity to us. So we've got several ways. We've got the website, we've got the hotline by calling 211 pressing #6. Folks can now text OC activity, and then also we have the actual email address. So please share this information. Visit our website. There are some flyers. I think we do have flyers and surveys here. So if you look at one side of the flyer, there's a QR code for the website itself, and the larger one is for our survey if you'd like to take the survey via your phone. Thank you so much for being here this morning. This is amazing. This is at least my first in-person event since forever. So it's so good to be in community, and I hope to have so many more of these in your communities and with the people that you work with. Thank you so much. Have a great day.